Oh, welcome back to your industry track. I am super excited for this presentation. We have Brian Piper, who is the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. And I'll tell you, I was at Hyatt Web last year and I was presenting and I was supposed to follow you. And Brian wasn't able to make it to Hyatt Web. And I was secretly, okay, now I don't have to follow him. But that also meant I didn't get to see his session. So I will tell you, I've never seen Brian Piper present live in person. And so I feel like for me, at least, this is such a treat because I've been waiting now for almost an entire year to see this guy take the stage. Now, Brian Piper, don't delay. Later this year, Brian Piper will be on the Higher Ed Pulse hosting a 5-part series Pulse Check on AI and data. So you are getting the sneak peek of what is going to be 5 episodes to close out the year on the Higher Ed Pulse. So if you are not subscribed to the Higher Ed Pulse yet, that is a good call to action to pull up Spotify or to pull up Apple Podcasts and click subscribe, because I know that when this session is done, you are going to be just counting down the days until that Pulse Check series drops, just like I have been counting down the days to seeing Brian Piper present in real life. So without further ado, let's bring the man to the stage.
Thank you, Mallory. Wow. Now I feel like I really have to deliver here. Thank you very much for being here. Today I'm going to talk about how you can use AI and data to help with your content marketing. So that's going to be everything from content to creation, to content distribution, to content optimization. And in higher ed, we create a lot of content for a lot of different audiences. If you came to my lightning talk yesterday, you heard how I managed to do 3 months worth of work in 1 week using AI. So hopefully some of what I'm going to tell you today will help you have the same sort of success. If you want to download the slides from today or the dashboard template that I'm going to talk about, any of the prompts, a list of all the tools, you can grab that at getmyslides.info, or you can use that QR code. I've been working optimizing content since 1996, so I've seen a lot of tools and technologies come and go. I've never seen anything with the capability and possibilities that AI gives us for optimizing our content and making ourselves more efficient and effective. Ethan Mollick is an AI expert. He's a professor at Wharton, and he's the author of the book Co-Intelligence, which is a great kind of guide to getting started with AI and how AI works. I highly recommend following him. He wrote this article a few months ago and said, basically, we can expect these tools to double in performance every 5 to 14 months. So that means that the tools that we're using today are going to be twice as good in a year or less. So now is the time to start experimenting with these tools, to start exploring, because they're not going away. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But first, I want to talk about dinner. So how many of you in here are responsible for the cooking, the shopping, anything to relate with making food in your house, right? A lot of us, all right? So my wife and I have 6 kids between the 2 of us. So we eat a lot of food in our house. And I'm the cook, I'm the shopper. So typical Sunday night, we're sitting around playing games, and I say, hey, what do you all want for food during the week? What do you want for meals? And you know what I get? Crickets. I mean, they don't want crickets, but silence, right? No input, or whatever you want to make, that's fine. So then I have to spend my Sunday night figuring out what the meal plan's going to be for the week, what the shopping list is, put all that together, time that I would rather be spending with the family. So November 2022, ChatGPT comes out and I say, this might be a good use case for this. So I open up ChatGPT and I say, give me a meal plan for a family of 8 with quick-to-prepare dinners that are healthy. And it came back with pretty generic, pretty plain information. A whole list of kind of the food that we already ate. So then I do what we do with these tools. We give it more data. Now, it's not all quantitative data. It's not all numbers and metrics, right? This is qualitative data. This is, one of our kids is a pescatarian. 4 of our kids don't like spicy foods. I kind of prefer to cook more gourmet foods, but the kids aren't always very adventurous eaters. So it came back with some better ideas. And even if only 5 of those ideas were helpful, you just ask it for 20 more. So then when custom GPTs came out, I said, now this is a good use case. So if you haven't built a custom GPT before, it's very straightforward. You do have to have the paid version of ChatGPT, but the $20 a month that I spend on that saves me hours of time every month. It's worth it. And just for the food prep alone is 2 hours of my time, so that's worth $20. So when you say, I want to create a new custom GPT, it just asks you some questions. What do you want this GPT to do? What do you want to name it? And I wouldn't spend too much time on that because it doesn't really pay a whole lot of attention to that information. But what you can do is in the configure settings, you can have instructions. So you can put all the details in there. So I built the culinary creator. And I gave it a list of here's all the ways that I like to cook, the food preparation methods that I like. Here's the process that I want to go through. First, I want you to recommend meal ideas for me, main courses, side dishes. And then I want you to give me the recipes that I ask for. Oh, and when you give me those recipes, give me a picture of the dish because I want to know what it's going to look like when I'm done. Then I want you to give me the preparation list. I want to know what I have to do ahead of time so that the meals are easy to prepare on the night that I'm cooking them. And here's a map of my grocery store. Here's the order that I shop in. Here's what's in each aisle. I just took a picture of the cap heads in the aisles. And so now, and I'll show you an example of what I use for Christmas dinner. I just said, give me the meal ideas, give me all the recipes, give me the images that go along with them, give me the whole preparation schedule of what I'm going to need to do and how early I'm going to need to do it, and then give me my shopping list in order. So now on Sunday nights, it takes me about 5 minutes to plan the meals for the week. The kids love it because it's new recipes that we haven't always cooked before. I enjoy cooking it, and the shopping list is all in order. Saves me a ton of time. Using these tools in our personal lives are a great way to get more understanding of how they work and to figure out how to integrate them into our work lives. So since I've been using these tools, I've been keeping a running list of all the different ways, all the different use cases that I have for them. And this is only some of them. And obviously, we don't have time to go through all of these today. But I did want to highlight 5 of them that saved me a ton of time. So I work at a research university. Our content officers spend a lot of time going through really complex research findings and papers and trying to understand, as Shane was saying, concepts that you may not really have a deep knowledge of. So ChatGPT is great at breaking concepts down. I do a lot with AI and data and analytics, so those fields and environments are changing quickly. So there's no way to keep up with all that information. So actually, I recently started using a Chrome extension called HARPA AI. And you can just go to a YouTube page and launch the HARPA AI plugin, and it will give you a minute-by-minute breakdown of the content within that video. And then you can just jump to the section that you want to watch that's most applicable to you without having to go through the entire video. Super helpful. When we're doing research, trying to come up with ideas and statistics and data around a particular topic that we're going to be writing about or creating content about, whether that's a podcast or whether it's course descriptions or anything like that, I always start with Perplexity AI. So the thing I love about Perplexity is it actually goes out and does live searches of the internet. And then it gives you the information back in a conversational style, and it cites all of the sources. So you can immediately go fact check all of those to make sure that the information that it's giving you is accurate. A lot of these other tools don't do that, and you're much more likely to run into hallucinations like we were talking about. So once I have kind of all the ideas, the information that I need for that topic, then I go to the other LLMs. And what I'll typically do is I'll open up 4 different browser windows, and I'll run 4 different models at the same time. So I'll run ChatGPT, I'll run Claude, I'll run Gemini Pro, and I'll run HyperWrite. They all give different information. They all write it in different styles and formats. Incredibly helpful to look at which one is providing the best input for the particular type of content you're creating at the moment. And these models are always changing, and they're always adapting. So now I've got kind of the information, I've got an outline, I know where I want to go. Now we get to the heart of content marketing. Who are you talking to? Who's your audience? Well, one of the best ways to really nail down your audience is to create personas. I love a good persona. Personas are the imaginary friends of the marketing world, right? Personas take a long time to create. You have to go out and you have to interview the audience. You have to get that qualitative and quantitative data. It's resource heavy to build all of these. With the right prompt, these tools can create pretty good, usable, base level personas. Now, I'm not saying replace the standard interviews that you do to really build these quality personas. That's absolutely still essential. But we can only do so many of those. We only have the resources to create so many of those. So these tools can help build those out. When I talked about prompting, there's lots of different ways to prompt these tools. There's whole other sessions we could do and courses that are out there on prompting. The structure that I tend to use the most when I'm really trying to get quality output is Christopher Penn's race model. So first you give the tool a role. You tell it what part you want it to play. I want you to be an SEO expert. Then you're going to tell it what actions you're going to ask it to do so that it knows as it's consuming all your data, all the rest of the information that you give it, it knows what you're going to ask it. Then you give it the context, all the data you can give it. The more data you can give it, the more information you can provide, the better the output that you're going to get out of that. And then you ask it to execute. So you have your prompt. Now you need your data. So in higher ed, we have lots of data, right? You can get data from all sorts of different sources. So we have these public data sets, common data sets up on our website. These are publicly available, so we know that those are safe to put into these tools. You can get the same sort of data from your CRMs. You can get it from HR if you're talking to staff and faculty. Any data that you put into these tools, unless you're using a tool that's behind your firewall or that's, you already have a privacy statement with that tool provider knowing that your data is not being used, make sure that you remove any personal information from that data. So we've got our data set. We know how we're going to prompt the tool. So then we go to the tool and we say, all right, you're a content marketing expert. You have a deep understanding of audiences. I'm going to ask you to create a persona for a potential undergraduate student. Here's the about page of our university so we can make sure that we've got the right mission fit student for the persona. Here's our strategic priorities so that you can understand what our university is all about. Here's our about page so you can get more information about that. Use this common data set to get a better understanding of who this audience is. Now, create that persona, please. Take your time. So it's been proven that telling these models to take their time provides better results because they're not rushing through, they're not trying to push you into their queue. And I always say please and thank you when I'm interacting with these tools because when the robot apocalypse comes, maybe they'll remember I was polite to them. So we'll see. So you run the prompt and you get a pretty good usable model back that you can use, you can give out to your staff. So that's great. Now you're going to ask more information, more details, the things that you would ask if you were building an actual persona. What are your priority concerns? What are your roadblocks? What are your decision criteria when you're thinking about which school to choose or whether or not you're going to donate? All of these things, what is your ideal user journey? And these are multimodal, so you can ask it to create an image of what your persona might look like as well. So this is all great. Now you've got a persona. You can give this to your marketing team, your comms teams. They can all be on the same page about who they're talking to. But now, this is where it gets really fun. Now you can create these custom GPTs of your personas. So we created Potential Pat the undergrad. And we took all that information we got from the tools. And we didn't just use ChatGPT to get this information. We did put those same questions into Claude, Gemini. We took all of that. We took the best information from that. And we put that all into the instructions in our custom GPT. And now you can do really fun things with that. You can point it at your content and say, what do you think about our admissions page? How does that look to you? What else should be included? What other questions do you have that we're not answering on our page? Do you like the layout? Is it easy to understand? Is the language right for you? You can even do competitive analysis and say, look at this other site. How do you think their admission admissions page compares to ours? What do you like about theirs that isn't on our page? And you can also ask it, what other channels would you go to find this sort of information, to do this research about where you want to go to school? And that's where we get into the distribution. So in this day and age, distribution equals discoverability. It's not enough anymore to just put some SEO up on your website. And you gotta have your content in the spaces that your audiences are looking for it, especially if you're dealing with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because they're searching differently. I use my kids as a case study all the time. I'm always asking them questions, and they really get sick of it. How are you searching? What are you looking for? What channels are you on? They're searching on social. They're searching on voice. They're searching through AI. We have to figure out how to get our tool, how to get our content into all of those places. But what do we always say in content marketing? We always say, pick one channel, pick one place where you can put out the best content and focus on that. Because we don't have the time or the resources to be everywhere. But these AI tools can help you with that. So ChatGPT is a great tool for repurposing content for different channels, for different audiences. Marketing AI Institute is a fantastic resource. They do one-hour podcast every week. They put it out. It's all about what's going on in the AI landscape. They take that one piece of original content and they repurpose it into about 30 or 40 different pieces of content every week using AI. And it takes them about half an hour to do that for all that different content. So ChatGPT is great. You can give it a transcript and say, make this into a TikTok script for a potential undergraduate student, and then you can go figure out who you're going to have read the script. DALL-E and Midjourney are two great tools for doing text-to-image generation. So you can tell them, DALL-E is integrated into ChatGPT. Midjourney is a more stylized kind of image creator. You've seen lots of different examples of those being used. Descript and Capsho are two tools that you can use for video and audio editing. So you can do some really interesting things with them. If you're doing a video interview with someone and the audio drops out, you can actually train the tool on a clean piece of audio, and you can have it replace the audio that got lost, and it'll sync it up to the lip movements of the person that was supposed to be saying it. You can also do automatic show notes for these tools. You can force eye contact with the camera, so if someone's reading off of a transcript, you can make it look like they're looking at the camera. You can automatically remove filler words, and it'll seamlessly stitch those together. Gloss AI and Opus Clips are two tools that you can use to repurpose long-form video content. So as soon as we're done, we've got the video from my presentation. We could take that, load that into Opus Clips, and say, give me 20 clips. And it'll go through and pick out what it thinks are the most important moments from the conversation. It'll take those, convert the horizontal format to vertical. It'll add the text overlays for you, and then you're ready to post that out on social. Runway is a text-to-video tool. We're going to see a lot more of these coming out where you just tell it what video you want it to create. You need some B-roll for a video, you just tell it what you want in there, and it'll put that in there for you. HeyGen is a really interesting tool. You can create avatars with it that you train on your own video. And I did a short example of this. Basically, I recorded 30 seconds of video of me talking.
I'm so excited about the new capabilities.
I loaded that into HeyGen.
Ich bin so aufgeregt über die neuen Möglichkeiten.
Now I speak German.
Estoy muy emocionado por las nuevas capacidades y
Spanish.
oportunidades. 이러한 이제 생성 AI 도구들이
Korean.
우리에게 제공하는
I don't
새로운
speak
기능과
any of those
기회에 대해
languages.
너무 흥분되고
I love watching
있습니다.
myself speak Korean. What's so
그들은
interesting?
우리 역시 자기가 흐름의 효율성과 개선을
Obviously-
가져와 우리가 일하는 방식을 바꿀 것입니다.
Obviously, using any of this translation service, you want to make sure that you verify all the translation quality that comes out. They actually provide that as a service as part of HeyGen. I know people who are training these avatars of themselves that do a lot of online courses on things like AI that need to be updated regularly. They can train a avatar of themselves in their voice, and then when they want to update their content, they just go in and change the transcript. They don't have to re-record, they don't have to re-edit. It just automatically puts the new content in their voice, in their mouth movements, and integrates that into the video. So we talked about content creation, we've talked about content distribution. Now we're going to get into my favorite section, the content optimization part. I love optimizing content. I love figuring out how to make your content more effective, how to figure out what content is working and what content isn't. One of my favorite tools for that is Google Search Console. So Search Console will show you what terms people are searching on and then clicking through to get to your content. I don't like a lot of things about Search Console. So any Google tool that you use, you know that it's kind of difficult sometimes to get the data out of the tool. So Search Console doesn't show you all the things that you want to see in one view. It'll show you the keywords and then how many people are clicking. Or it'll show you the pages and how many people are clicking. So what we'll do is we take our Search Console data and we put that into Looker Data Studio. And then we can organize that however we want. We can put all the content in there. We get the keywords. We get the pages that they're linking to. We get how many impressions, how many times people are searching for those keywords online, and then how many times they're clicking through to your page. And then you also get your average rankings that your page shows up in search for. The template for this is at getmyslides.info. You can just download that, make a copy of it, point it at your Search Console account, and then you'll get this same report. Incredibly helpful for identifying opportunities within your content. But what's even better is now you can just right-click on that. You can say, export this as a CSV file. And then you take that CSV file and you put it in ChatGPT. And you say, you're a content marketing expert. I want you to give me recommendations based on the traffic that we're getting and the keywords that we rank for on what other kind of content that we should be creating for our audience. Oh, here's a link to our strategic priorities, so you can make sure that the content that we're going to be creating is strategic and aligned with our mission. So that's great. Give me 20 pieces of content, please. Take your time. So it spits out 20 pretty good pieces of content, ideas about those. And then what do you do with that? You open up Potential Pat. You say, hey, Pat, which of these content items are you most interested in? And Pat will come back and say, I think I like these 5 stories the most, and here's why. And then you can go deeper into that. Like, what other questions do you have? And this is great for preparing on what kind of content you want to do so that when you go and interview your subject matter experts, you know what questions you want to ask. You know what kind of answers you want to get back that are more relevant to your students and also that align with those keyword opportunities that you have. Another great use of these tools is in aggregating information back. So someone talked earlier about doing survey data, right? These tools are great for pulling back survey data, especially open-ended questions in surveys. Open-ended questions can be a nightmare in surveys. You get 1,000 survey responses back and everybody types in something different. These tools are great at categorizing and finding themes in those. So one of our marketing teams was working with one of our departments, and they reached out to the faculty and deans and said, how can we better serve you? What can we do to help you be more effective? So they did 10 90-minute interviews with the faculty and deans. And they had 15 hours of audio. And they came to me and said, you know, it took us several months to do all these interviews, and we don't remember everything that everybody said. Can AI help us get this information together? Yes, you bet. So we took all the transcripts, put them into Otter AI, or took the audio, put it into Otter AI. We got transcripts. And then we tried uploading all of those transcripts into ChatGPT, and at the time, the context window wasn't big enough to have all of them. So we took one at a time, and in the first one, we said, here's why we did these interviews, and here's the structure, the format of the interviews, here's who's talking in these. We want you to create a list, pull together all of the different key concepts and themes that exist in these responses. So it came back with a really good summation of that interview. And then we just uploaded the second one and said, do the same thing for this. So we did that for all of them. And then when we got the last one up there, we said, now take all of these summations that you put together and give us a list of the most common themes and topics within all of those. And it did a really good job. The person that did the interviews came and reviewed it and said, yep, that looks right. That's what I remember people talking about. So then we took it a step further and said, give us 10 to 15 action items things that we can do to help alleviate some of these problems. And it came back with 15 ideas, and 13 of them were horrible. They were just not things that we could implement. They weren't practical, but 2 of them were really good. And you know what we did then? We asked for 20 more. So there are a lot of different things you can do with these tools, but it's hard sometimes to figure out how to get started or how to get your team, how to get your institution on board with this. So we recently started a Marcom AI committee. So similar to what was talked about in the keynote, you bring together AI enthusiasts from across the institution, and everybody starts talking about their different use cases and what they're doing with these tools and how you can experiment with these tools. And so our committee got together, and we basically, within the first 3 months, we came up with recommendations for institutional guidelines about AI usage within the Marcom community. Those were just adopted. We came up with a short-term and long-term roadmap for AI integration across the institution. And then we also came up with pilot projects and different use cases. And now we're coming up with an entire awareness program and education campaign. I'm glad to share any of that information with anyone that might be helpful. We started off just with the marketing and communications teams, and now we have connected with other teams across the institution in academics and research and the clinical teams, all using AI in very different ways, but the fundamental concepts are still the same and extremely relevant. It's a very exciting time to be in content creation, to be in higher ed. These tools can do a lot of things. It's up to us to decide what they should be doing. Thank you very much for your time. I'm glad to answer any questions. I think we've got a couple minutes left. And like I said, slides, feel free to grab those.
A Marcom AI committee is the only committee that you could get me to go to if I worked for a college or university. Who has the first question for Brian? Coming to you. Brian, that was awesome. For the record, it was worth the wait.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
All right, here you go, friend.
So going back to my earlier question, thank you. Do you have to put everything into ChatGPT, or can you give it a link to an environment that holds an entire banner system?
As long as the access to that link is open, it can access, yes, websites. It can search that way. Yes, absolutely.
And can you use ChatGPT behind your own firewall?
Yes, so we're actually creating, that's one of our long-term roadmaps, is we're creating an internal environment that is gated so that we can start using some of our research data without having to worry about it getting out to train the model or being available out into the world. So you use API access to pull that into your environment, and then so we're creating an environment where we can either use ChatGPT Teams or Claude or any of the different models that have an API. You can pull those right in.
When do you anticipate that happening?
Actually, Vanderbilt already has an open source model that you can use, that you can talk to them about. Jules White is a great contact there. You can talk to them about getting access to their model. And we're hoping, we've already got 2 different environments that are being built right now to help support that. One's on the clinical healthcare side, and the other one's in our IT system. So hopefully within the next month or 2. Right now we're just experimenting with the tools natively. But we're hoping to do all that through the API because the cost will be significantly lower as well.
One more?
Thank you. Is it correct that I understood, so you use different models, but in the end you feed all the different results always back into ChatGPT, so that's your preferred final tool to work with?
For data analysis, yes. So we do most of our data analysis within ChatGPT just because it handles it so much better. And there was a question in the last session about hallucinations, and especially with data, you have to make sure, because it's such a volume of information, once it starts putting data in the wrong column, it can throw everything off and you might not be aware. So we'll usually create like small models of the different Excel files or CSV files that we're going to use to test our prompts again, and once we get the prompt working, then we'll do it against the large data set, and then we'll go in and spot check and validate. Well, I'm the data analytics person, so it's one, but we're working on this across our entire institution. We've got about 20 people across the institution who have analytics as part of their job. I'm kind of the only full-time analytics person.
But that's the point of AI. It makes a team of one feel like a team of 100.
That's right.
Brian, that was fantastic.
Thank you, Mallory.
so
Thank you all.
much. Let's give him a round of applause, y'all.